Hi all. These are generally conversations between adults after the children have left the table. The language can be spicy and the subjects can get saucy. So if you're ready, this is the Southern Fork. Unscripted kitchen chats and also studio chats with some of the most interesting voices in the culinary South. I'm Stephanie Burt, a food and beverage writer based in Charleston, South Carolina, who travels with her fork to write for a variety of publications, from magazines you might have on your coffee table to the website you love to visit for your favorite recipes. And I'm inviting you to come behind the scenes with me to get to know the people who make this Southern culinary landscape so special. I'm always hungry for the next bite, thirsty for that next sip, and ready for the next conversation. Let's dig in. The Southern Fork is honored to be presented again this year by Townsend Automotive in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Celebrating 50 years of service in Tuscaloosa and West Alabama, the Townsend family of dealerships has been a locally owned company built on service and connection with its customers. At Townsend Honda, with new cars in short supply, they've purchased more than 200 quality pre-owned vehicles. And every one of them goes through a 118-point inspection before it's offered for sale to you. Most of those vehicles are either Honda Certified Pre-Owned or Townsend Certified Pre-Owned, and the dealership also has a fully staffed parts and service department to assist you beyond the purchase day throughout the life of your vehicle. That includes Saturday service, which is available until 1 p.m., even during football season. Visit townsendhonda.com for current inventory, or if you're in West Alabama, stop in. Townsend Honda salutes local entrepreneurs, from restaurateurs to podcasters, and they welcome you to be part of a community that does the same. Eating in a restaurant is more than just food. In its simplest form, it's an experience eating food in an environment outside your home. For Kate Towill of Basic Projects in Charleston, South Carolina, that experience is a blank slate for design that goes way beyond what color to paint the walls. She spent 6 years in the film industry as a set designer, working on commercials, music videos, and feature films. Her clients ranged from HBO to Wes Anderson, including being part of the art department for his film Moonrise Kingdom. When Kate and her husband Ben moved from New York City to Charleston in 2013, they founded Basic Projects, which works in both commercial and residential design and currently includes 3 low-country restaurants: Basic Kitchen, Post House, and Sullivan's Fish Camp. Each of these restaurants is a full environment filled with a unique blend of elements, from original art to lighting to a well-curated playlist that creates an immersive place in which to experience the restaurant's food. If you're looking to elevate your own eating environment at home, this conversation on how to combine and curate design elements can provide some inspiration. Or if not, at the very least, it will probably make you notice the next time the light bulbs just don't look right in that corner booth. Welcome to the Southern Fork, Kate.
Thank you for having me on.
Well, I'm so excited to have you on. It would be so much better to sit across from you like we planned to pre-pandemic, but our lives have really changed since then.
They have really changed since then. This is true.
So I didn't want to wait. We had a wonderful conversation earlier this summer for an article that I was working on for Resi. And I remembered how lovely it was to talk with you and how interesting your job is. And so I just thought it was time, no matter what, even if we had to do it remote today. So I appreciate you chatting with me remotely and downloading a new web browser in order to do this. So I appreciate that.
Sorry about that.
Hey, tech. That's how it is.
Yeah, I'm not your person for any tech, but we got it done.
That's right. We're here. So I really want to talk to you today and start really from a fangirl position, which is pretty much the standard position here at the Southern Fork. I have on people that I admire and think are passionate about what they do. And your restaurants have such a signature of design, of vibe, of character. And, I can pick them a mile away. And I think that's just very unusual. And so I wanted to talk to you today about restaurant design, which I know is a passion of yours.
That is true. And thank you for saying that. That's kind of all you want to ever hear.
Well, I basically want all the things in all the restaurants. Like I want, the bathroom and basic kitchen is one of the best bathrooms in Charleston. I remember somebody interviewed me about bathrooms at one point, and I was like, basic kitchen has one of the best bathrooms. I think it's just beautiful, simple. Of course, bathrooms have gone much more over the top since you built that one.
This is true.
And then the post house is where I brought my sister, my very discerning sister, when she came to visit recently in Charleston. That's where we went for Sunday brunch.
I love to hear that.
And I said, you're going to love this place. It just has you written all over it. And she said, I just want to come here every time we visit Charleston. So,
well, tell your sister I'm a huge fan of hers as well.
But you and I talked about Sullivan's Fish Camp. So I think in order for people to understand really where we're coming from is for you to delve in just a little bit to the idea of your set design background. You really seem to come to restaurant design like you would a movie set, right?
That's correct. Yeah, it's specifically why I love restaurant, and hospitality design the most, because with my setback, you really were designing for the frame and for a specific amount of time, where I love that with restaurant design. It's almost like theater every night. We have our amazing front and back of house that comes in, and when you're there for 2, 3, 4 hours. So we can have a little bit more fun with pattern and lighting and art on the wall. And, residential can, that's something you're in every day. So that has to have some calmness to it or whatever, the needs of the client are. So I feel really connected to restaurant and hospitality design that way because my background is in film set design.
I'd like to just delve into Sullivan's Fish Camp a bit because that came from a very specific inspiration. And I think that would be a really good example to explain to listeners really what we're talking about. So you said the vibe was when you could smoke in restaurants, right?
That's right. I wondered if you were going to bring up that one, and it is true. I did say that.
But that era, you had specific things kind of on a vision board, right?
Yes. We definitely knew we needed some nostalgia on the island. So I think we all kind of centered around this 70s Jaws summer, when summers really felt unbelievable, right? And it was all on this Madras plaid feeling. And so the vision board started with plaid and like a guy behind a tiki bar, and then we went from there. And look, the floors flood because we're at the beach and because we are hurricane, within hurricane's path often. We definitely flood. It's within 4 inches that comes in the restaurant on the big floods. And so again, with practicality with restaurants, what I love is that's why we chose a vinyl, linoleum floor. It's yellow and white checkered, so we had a bit of fun with it, but you can literally hose that restaurant down. It's like all pine with extra lacquered and epoxy, much like a boat. The ability to walk in sandy and hose it down is there, and I think that was important to us, so nothing felt precious, and you can bring the kids and you can bring the dog outside, but I think that started it. And with all of our design, it really starts with the food. So we wanted, you have the fry basket option or like the grilled fish option, and we have a Shem Creek just down the street where we get all of our shrimp, and then the design that comes in after that.
It starts with the food, and then it really builds from there. But what's so interesting is that the design is so interesting. As a front of house worker, these places that you build are layered, right? They have different things to look at, different original pieces of art, old ship clocks, things like that, like in a place like Sullivan's, or original photography by Sully Sullivan and Basic Kitchen. And it was like made for Instagram. When Instagram first just got really hot and big, I thought, this is a place where everyone's going to want to come and take a photograph. That's not discounting the food at all, but since we're really focused on design, it's a labor of trust. And I say a labor of trust to put that kind of stuff in the hands of day-to-day shift workers.
Right. That's a great point.
And so how do you work with your staff to keep things clean, to move off things that are broken? I mean, you've got a lot of one of a kind things in all of the restaurants.
Right. I think the first thing that comes to mind is the thing that annoys me the most when you're in a restaurant and the bulbs don't match. And that's like the biggest show of like the front of house wasn't at all told by the designer, like what bulbs, you need to do a bulb list. That's huge because that just shows that people are getting lazy in the restaurant. And I feel like as clear as you can be, like we had a bunch of plants in Basic Kitchen and we still have some, but we don't have as many as we opened with because outside of the front of house activities, which is a lot, it's a lot to ask someone to remember to water all the plants. Then the bulbs, make it simple, LED, but get the best LEDs you can. No incandescent, they go out too quick. There's what else? There's, everything off surfaces, as much epoxy, like we epoxied the bar at Sullivan's because you just have so many people a day and then every night coming in and those bars just get worn down. The tables are marmoleum this time. That's because we went with just a regular wood and stained and we did them ourselves and then we learned the hard way with Basic Kitchen. We had to redo them all. So I think what I'm trying to say is kind of make it foolproof. And if we're doing it so a kid is okay to scribble on something, we can clean it off, then I know the staff will be fine too. I recently had one of our AGMs say to me, I was eating in Sullivan's the other day and she was like, just thank you for creating a place that's inspiring to come, because now I go to restaurants and I notice when things are off and it makes me, more involved. And so she made me notice something that, there wasn't a light that was straight in a certain area. And I was like, I love that. I can't be there all the time. I can't be eyes all the time. But if our staff is inspired and kind of take it as their own, then that's that's the best thing ever, right?
Yeah, that's the best thing ever. And it's fun, all the different things, like at the post house with the keys, and that's a beautiful bar. Bars are really central to all of these restaurants. And right. I'm guessing it will be in the hotel project as well, right? In the Old Village?
Yes. This one is very unique. It's almost in a glass box outside. It's very cool. But I can't say much about it because we're all in the design stage still, so we'll see. That might change.
Yeah. Do you have, like you would in set design, or if you're an editorial like me, I don't anymore. I have a prop shelf in my house, but we used to have a prop closet. Do you just collect things, or do you go on buying trips, or how does that work?
Right. So we definitely, you said we were layered, and it's really important. We call it the top layer, right? Of course. So this is something that we always put time aside for within the last I'd say 3 months of the build out, or 8 weeks it gets down to. And we usually do a buying trip at Round Top, Texas, at the largest, antique show in the States. Mm-hmm. And we go for 3-4 days, a few people on the team, a big 26-foot truck. It's funny, we try to go at the beginning and the end of the job, because sometimes at the beginning you find a piece that you can build around, and that's the piece that inspires, it's the host stand or whatever it may be. We get a lot on Etsy and Cherish, but we've really noticed that the amount you pay for shipping and the amount of time it takes to and extra money on those websites, that it's really best to go to these antique shows. Mm-hmm. You just get so many pieces, and so unique, and they all have a story, and while it's nice to hear that it's Instagrammable, but I always just feel like we just have fun with it. And
it just seems fun, and there's something to do, like it's interactive. My favorite detail is very small at Sullivan's, and it might be my favorite detail from all of your restaurants. I know it's kind of silly, but it's the paper placemats.
No way. I love that that's your detail. That's great.
They remind me of my childhood. We went to fish camps, and I like to see when the servers place them down, because that gesture is like muscle memory. It just triggers something, when I watch people lay them down. But they have drawings, renderings of fish, very scientific kind of thing. But yet it's also modern. That isn't inexpensive. I mean, you had to track down, it's the guy that drew stuff for the SCDNR, right? One of the map makers,
right. He's his name is Dwayne Reaver, and I actually believe he was NCDNR for North Carolina. But,
sorry.
I think it's okay. But South Carolina, I believe, had used a bunch of his drawings. He's like a famous fish illustrator. I read this long article about him because when Stitch, who does a lot of our branding, they found him and they were like, check this out. He's 97 and he's just done this incredible work. So we picked our favorites. They helped make this mat. We did one in color, and then we did one in just the blue and white. And then we ended up framing all the fish in the bathroom, so you can because it's a contest. You have to pick out. You have to know all your fish names.
Right.
So you go in the bathroom. You can work it out.
All of that it's very, to use an overused term, it's very bespoke. It's very individualized to the place and the location. And you both are not from Charleston, but you really want your work in Charleston to be anchored in place. Why is place and time so important to the way your creativity builds in these concepts?
Specifically to which building we pick for the restaurant, or like within my life of other projects?
That's a great follow-up question I need to clarify. I'm interested in your idea of place as a ethereal, like Sullivan's Island, as an ethereal thing, not necessarily the building. But Charleston has had so many people from outside of Charleston build restaurants, and that can be really great. But sometimes it feels like that could be anywhere USA too. It might be really nice, but it doesn't feel like you're anywhere specific. You could be inside a hotel in Dallas, or not really sitting in Charleston or on Sullivan's Island or Old Village.
Right. And I'd say the thing that pops up first to my mind is artists. So as much as I can, I feel like it's such an obvious answer to use local artists, but I feel like we go that next level in. So we work with Charleston Artist Collective during the Post House renovation, and Allie, who owns it, is a good friend, and she was so incredible with kind of bringing a few artists that after I gave her kind of the brief and the look and feel of the art I wanted, she brought in, a dozen artists, and we sat with their work and we thought, this could be cool, and thought, these artists would be in each bedroom, and then, those artists are all Charleston artists or a relationship to Charleston. So that instantly had a sense of place. And then, it's even the table size. We had restaurants in New York City. The table size is not the same in Charleston. It's more spacious. It's more space around them. You can't sardine people in. Obviously, after COVID was different. So, and then there's also, this, I suppose, the color of the wood, or I do feel like it's important to know down south things are just a little bit softer, I suppose, and that was something that we always kept in mind was art, and then really kind of the flow of the restaurant. And I do think while our stuff always has a touch of the south in it, it's got a lot from our travels, so yes. It's definitely interesting, I suppose, to some people that are from here, because it's something different. It's not just something that they know so well. With a fish camp always has to have a freshwater fish on the menu. So that was something, you have to keep that in mind. But we don't have to just do exactly what other fish camps do. We can kind of do our own rendition, but while keeping in mind where we are.
All of this is a lot. It's a lot to actually put on yourself. It's fun. It sounds really fun. Like, I'm dying to go to Round Top. I know about it. And I would love to go there. Oh my goodness. And of course I've seen it on the shows, but, it's a lot of work. And I know a lot of restaurateurs listen to the show, and it's hard to really translate that into a spreadsheet, into profitability. But what do you really think, besides just providing a beautiful place for people to eat and people to work, what do you think it really provides you as a business?
I feel like I can hear Ben's answer to this one. I think some of the most creative people, definitely the most creative people, but some of the most business people that I admire, they aren't run by the bottom line, right? And yes, that's important because we have now almost 250 staff members, which is massive. But I think we always keep in mind, we put the people that work with us first. We always definitely offer unbelievable benefits. And I think the company culture is really, really important for us. And you're not squeezing everything out. I mean, that's just not a fun place to work. Mm-hmm. And it really is all about that team. And, I have only a few girls on my side for the design side, but, we all are a nice little family. We work hard. We know when we need to take some time off. You're going to get so much more with someone if you're on the same level that way. So I'd say the short of it, because we had a lot of fun at Round Top. We spent way too much money before Post House.
It's really hard not to. Come on.
But we ended up using, pieces for another project or for a different client. But it's I see that. I have to have that. We have to have it. I think we definitely don't take life too seriously, and you don't let, the bottom line just control you, because it's gonna come out. If you do something you love and you just stick to that, I do feel like people will come around.
Mm-hmm. And it does feel like going into a set. It really does. Some of the restaurants, they really evoke a mood and a vibe, and that vibe really extends to the music, something I know that you're super passionate about, and I'm passionate about it only when it doesn't match.
Yes, I totally agree with that. That's a great statement.
And I'm just kind of rolling with it. I can focus on my dining companion, but if it doesn't match, and I can think of specific places where it is jarring and bad, but I don't want to call them out. No. It takes me away from the dining experience, and I want to get out. Not just because I don't like that song, but it just doesn't fit. So that's another thing that you have to really work on. Talk to me a little bit about the differences and the soundtracks, playlists.
Right. It would be probably, along with the menu items, one of the first things that I work on, funny enough, is the playlist and the world. Who is this, what is this world? And, I think I started with Marvin Gaye for Sullivan's, and then it was more, more like beach tunes for Basic Kitchen, surf rock. And then Post House, for some reason I started more French, and then it got a little bit more Allman Brothers, and it was definitely a bit more sing-along. But what I wanted to say with it is I completely agree with that comment, where if you notice it, it's not good. It's if the lighting's too bright, you're oh my God, I guess that kind of thing affects me maybe.
No, I was just in a place on Friday night, and I said, I know this isn't a strip mall, but we really need to take it down about 30% on the lights. Of course, I didn't say that.
You'll order
everyone looks a little bit better,
Oh, totally. But with the music and with anything like that, I think lighting is another one, or overall color scheme. If it's something you notice and you're ooh, there's something not right about that, or that music, I need to go to the next track. This is jarring. That reminds me, again, oddly enough, of the film industry, where, when you're decorating for the set for a certain character, it's not something that you specifically love. It's a side table that you don't love, or you put on their side table half glass of water and a notebook with something on it, and it's supposed to be who that character is. And you only notice something in a movie if it's off, right? But like if it's all in there, then you're like, oh, you get the feeling for that character. You don't notice you don't notice the note on the side table. And I love that with restaurants because it's not so specific. You don't think like, oh, you're not singing along to that actual song, but it's just all of a sudden you walk in like this is this character, and it just is that world. I think that's like a total successful, all elements coming together, and that's really just nothing screaming out at you. But I'm the same with designing for residential, you know, like I don't want anyone to walk into my project and say, oh, this looks like their decorator or designer did it. I want it to feel like they did it, and I was helpful to that. When something's overly designed or trying too hard, it's like, I hate it. It's not for me. But I feel like with our restaurants, we can have fun. They're not overly designed. They're just like, they're fun. We're not afraid to really do our research and our homework on each person that we bring in or each piece. And I think a lot of people can feel that with it because we make life a lot more difficult on ourselves, that's for sure. But it's
what you do. And you got to layer. It's just a lot more fun. It's just a lot more fun. And including, what are they, blown, or it's not blown glass, but pressed glass, fish tiki glasses, right, at Sullivan's?
So we have the stained glass lights over the bar, and then we have, I think, more you mean the bubble glass, like basically the pebble glasses that you have at Pizza Hut?
Yes, those are great. So this is a lot, and I can't imagine your workload. I am amazed at the amount of work that, you know, how many things are going on through basic projects. But I just have to ask you, what is making you hungry? What's next?
Well, again, on the kind of hospitality, I've always wanted to do. I'm so happy that we're working on this 30 plus bedroom hotel because I've always wanted to do a larger hotel space. Like Post House is only 7 bedrooms and it's focused around the restaurant, which is great. But I've always wanted to be able to kind of do a new build and a large, just meant more hotel rooms. So this one is a new build, which I'm slightly nervous, but I love the challenge because I usually renovate only old buildings. So it's making me nervous and hungry, which is a good
That's great. Yeah. And it's fun. Boutique hotels are just so much fun to visit and stay in. And it's what I prefer when I go places. And it just makes it so much more interesting. But the bed still has to be comfortable, Kate. So please make sure that is the case, okay?
Do not worry. I got my mattress. We know which mattresses to use.
Okay, good. What is one aspect of your job that a lot of people who are listening to this didn't even know was a job that really meshes with an aspect of your natural personality?
So I think why I chose design, I did graphic design in college in New York, and then I went into film from there. So and then now in more interiors, right? So I don't have an interiors background, but why I love design so much is because it's really not a straight line. And the process is all over the place. And whenever I'm like, oh, I gotta get this done, it's like, the procrastination is almost part of that, right? And
I'm glad to hear you say that.
Really works that way. My brain works that way. I do work well under pressure, but I do know that I always have to now give myself time to procrastinate.
Well, I think we need, I love the word percolate, but I think we need time for things to steep, to percolate, to settle. And it's a puzzle. You know, you start with this idea and you're putting together a puzzle, and sometimes you can't see the next piece, but you need to leave it for a bit. So
it's so true. That's a really good way to say it.
Well, I use that as an excuse. So it was already planned because I use that on myself. People are like, you don't really work. I'm like, I live by deadlines. You know, I'm like, I got to do this today, you know, so I have to plan.
No, yeah. I'm the same.
What is something that is keeping you up at night?
Keeping me up at night. Currently, it's my daughter, Iris, who's 18 months and in a sleep regression. I don't know what's happening. But I know that's more of a physical one. I guess it's not as emotional. It's more just listening to her cry.
Yeah. That affects everything. Yeah.
It really does.
Sleep.
Kids are tough.
I see other people enjoying it. I still have sleep deprivation, though. It doesn't go away. I write emails. I plan things. I worry. I'm not a good sleeper.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked that question. So, you know. Yeah.
I like that.
Well, you have fed me wonderfully over the years, and I know we didn't talk much about Post House, but I mean, I had that fish sandwich there. I'm just a seafood girl. But you have such a nice, approachable wine list there too. So you've also...
I love to hear you say, Ben will love to hear you say that. He's always like, I never want anyone to feel like intimidated by our wine list. It should all be like...
A lot of crispy whites, which is wonderful when it's hot and you've walked in the old village and looked around and you're ready to sit down. So it's lovely. But you fed me so well, and I've enjoyed getting to know you a little bit. So I'm thrilled to be able to offer you this question, which is, I would love to know what you would like for me to put in your magic picnic basket. So I have a picnic basket that allows me to time travel just for Southern Fork guests, not for anything that would provide me monetary value. But with it, I can go back and ask somebody to make something that you just loved and you want one more bite of. I can source for you. I can cook a little bit, and I would just love to bring you some of your favorite tastes, some things that don't have to go together, but that you just enjoy. When I say the word, what is a dream bite? What comes to mind?
So within this picnic basket, do I get to like put in people, like 2 people that I've always wanted to meet?
Absolutely.
With me? Okay, it's almost like what would be your dream meal scenario? That's what I feel like it is. I'm changing your question for you. So this would mine would be. It would be walking up to like a beachside table in Italy on the Med with a fresh pesto pasta made by like some babe Italian chef that's there. Then Campari soda. Next to me would be Bruce Springsteen and Chris Martin, of course.
I did not see that coming. Now, there's no of course there.
No, they're just my 2 favorite singers in the world. And probably sharing a tiramisu for dessert. Oh, and then go for a dip.
Of course, with both of them. Sorry, Ben, you can't come. You have to take care of Iris. I'll be back in a few weeks.
That, you're exactly right. That was part of the basket, too.
Yeah. Now, I have to ask one follow-up question. And surprisingly, it's not going to be about Bruce Springsteen, who I also enjoy. But I want to know what shape of pasta, because that really matters. And you're a detail person.
Oh, I love that you asked that. I am a detail person. I feel like maybe I don't say it correctly, but it's orchietti.
Like the little ear.
Orchietti? The little, it's like the little ear. Yeah, I love that. We had that actually at our wedding.
There it is. Pesto pasta. Mm-hmm. Yeah, get it while you can. The basil is still growing. So, yeah. Well, if people want to learn more about Kate and her growing number of projects at Basic Projects that you can actually eat inside of, you can go to thesouthernfork.com. I'm going to have images there, as well as the face behind the voice, this calm, very still, serene voice that layers a million little things to look at when you sit down to your table. It's so much fun. If you like what you hear, restaurants are interesting, farms are interesting, restaurant design is interesting, distilling is interesting, and I got it all in the archive. So dig in. There is close to 300 episodes because I'm insane and I can't stop. And this is now my job. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me and downloading a browser.
Oh, it's always so fun. It was always so fun talking to you, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks. I can't wait to come and enjoy food together. Next time, let's do it over a glass of wine.
I would love it. Can't wait.
Hello, and welcome to Talking with My Mouth Full. One of the things that I really notice in restaurants these days, and this really makes me sound a little bit like a granny, is how loud the restaurants are. Maybe it's because I'm very sensitive to sound in general, but specifically after working 7 years in audio engineering. But I also think it's just because we're loud, and a lot of the restaurants that I enjoy eating in are in old buildings with high ceilings, and a lot of old buildings with high ceilings with tin tin covering the ceiling or just bare wood walls. I love the design look of that, but it is almost impossible sometimes if the restaurant is full to really hear your dining companion. So my number one thing for restaurateurs, if you're asking for my unsolicited opinion, is please budget for some kind of acoustic tiles. I know they can be really ugly, and I also understand that they are super expensive, but they are one of the things that are a hidden element in many ways that will keep your diners coming back. They will not notice that they can talk to their dining companion until they can't. And it will keep a lot of people out of the restaurant. I remember years ago, there was a restaurant that I loved in Charleston, and we would do a lot of business lunches there. I would meet girlfriends there after work for a drink and a bite. And eventually, when I started this podcast and I was meeting with a lot of people, doing a lot of kind of business lunches, I took that restaurant off my rotation because I couldn't hear the person that I was meeting with. And what's the point of meeting and taking the time to figure out how to park and meet downtown if you really can't halfway hear the person you're meeting? So acoustic tiles, that is my design tip of the day. And thanks so much for listening. I will be right here next week waiting for you. You've been listening to The Southern Fork. I can't wait to bring you more culinary conversations, but in the meantime, I have one question. Are you going to eat all that?